Me llamo Tania Mirón Pérez. I am from North Carolina, but I've lived in Long Beach for about 2 years now, but I've lived on the West Coast for a total of 6 years. I am a passionate, multifaceted, creative Latina. First generation, I'm the oldest of 5 siblings. I do a lot of different things. I'm an event planner, I'm a photographer, I'm a social justice advocate. I'm a huge supporter of my friends, trying to get involved with the city in regards to showing up to city council meetings, getting informed on upcoming elections and what's on the ballot. Also just being involved with anything in the community as far as like volunteer wise. Actually, last year I volunteered at the Long Beach Tamales Festival, the first one. And so I just try to look for different opportunities like that where I can be more involved and in tune with where I'm living and with the people that are in my community. I was born and raised in North Carolina. Both my parents are from Mexico. They immigrated here to the States when they were very young. I grew up with Spanish as my first language, learned English in school and kindergarten. Growing up, we were only allowed to speak Spanish at home, so my parents really tried to just preserve our culture. My siblings and I were also like being raised in like a hodgepodge of both, of Mexican culture and American culture, and defining what that meant for us being raised as first generation children. I think for sure like going to Mexico, like to visit our family. So when we were younger, we would go and we would take like trips more often than we did as we got older, to go visit my parents' hometowns, and like our extended family, and just like our different, every trip that we took, like there's just so many memories that come with that. But it was always like, now I reminisce on it and it's so nostalgic and so sweet, to think of like like doing late night taco runs here now as an older person, but thinking of like, oh, we did that when we were younger, just walking down the street from my abuelita's house to the neighborhood lady down the street that was selling tacos at like 10 o'clock at night. And that was just like a normal casual thing to do, or going to the plaza and like seeing all the vendors and like the mariachi and like the fireworks and stuff, or even like going to visit my primos y primas and my tios and tias and Pilcaya, and like just different things like that I like cherish so much and I miss a lot. I would echo for sure like everything that's been said in all of the interviews. Like every single piece of advice that's been shared so far, I feel like I've taken for myself, and I'm like, even just now I still need to hear that. But from me specifically, I would also say, just to remember that like you belong where you want to belong. Wherever it is that you feel like you belong, whether or not you're being told something different or made feel something different, like you do belong. And then with that, like whatever path you take, like it doesn't have to be linear. Like it can be whatever it is that means to you, and however that is defined for you. And the path that I've taken in my life, as in career and education and everything, like even just lifestyle, is very non-linear. It's very much like figuring it out as I go, and leaving room for the unexpected, leaving room for the unknown. Difficult one for me. While yes, it's matters and it's great and needed, and there have been a lot of strides made, I would say that it's not enough. It's a little bit of just difficult. There's a lot of nuance, but it is important. Like obviously even just today, like me seeing and interviewing the different people that we did for our interviews for this campaign, like it was important to try and include as much of the diaspora of Latinos as we could. It still meant a lot to see different types of Latinas, to know that like it's such a wide spectrum. So I think because it is such a wide spectrum, like there is just still a lot of progress to be made, like as a country, as a nation, as a world. There's still a lot of anti-Blackness when it comes to representation. There's still a lot of colorism when it comes to representation. And so that's why I say that there's still a lot of progress to be made. We still have a long way to go, but it is important, because what we do have so far has made someone feel seen and heard and represented. Mole. For sure, mole. I feel like everyone has pretty much said that in the interviews for the most part, but definitely mole. Growing up, I always got, and now still ask my parents for enchiladas de mole for my birthday. Straight up would eat like 8 of them by myself on one plate as like an 8-year-old. And yeah, just mole is my absolute favorite. Mole poblano, my dad's from Puebla. I have to say that, but also mole from Oaxaca is like my top 2 favorite. What I'm doing currently at LB Living, I do a little bit of everything. We are a small but mighty team, so we all do a little bit of everything. We all wear many different hats, but some of the things that involve that I've been doing is like just working on like social media stuff in regards to thinking of social media campaigns, handling newsletters and blogs for our different clients, helping with planning our different events that we have going on, networking, thinking of different ways to promote and include all the different businesses that are in Long Beach. So yeah, I mean, we all have our hands in literally everything, all working together cohesively and kind of just feeding off of each other. So really, if there's anything that you mentioned that asks like, do you do this? I probably have at some point done that, because again, we all do everything all at once simultaneously. So I think I would recommend just finding what works for you and then taking that plunge into whatever it is that you want to do. And if right now in the moment that you're in your life, you want to do one thing, and then a few years from now, after you've learned what you've learned there, you decide, oh, I actually want to tap into something else, like that's okay. Like you're not tied down to just one job or one career or one talent. Like you can discover and tap into so many different things, and like there's no timeline, there's no like this arbitrary you have to do certain things at a certain timeline and have a certain career. Like that's not necessarily true for everyone. It might be true for some people, but it doesn't necessarily work for everyone. And that's what I've found for me, is that I have allowed myself to let things run its course with however it is that it feels right for me in the moment. For me, I'll be honest, I did not really start like celebrating it as like, oh, it's Latinx Heritage Month up until like a few years ago. Now that I have had the opportunity to be able to unpack a lot of experiences that I've had, that I've been able to understand like our culture and how far we've come, and understand how we're treated in this country, and the progress that has been made in this country and the progress that is still left to be made. Like after all of those things, like now, like I felt like even more proud to actually celebrate it and be like intentional with it. But while I'm celebrating it, also keeping in mind that there is still a lot of things that we need to work through. Not only like in the States, how we treat Latinos and the stereotypes that are still being made about them, and the immigration system and everything that comes with all of that. But also within our own community as Latinos, there's still a lot of things that we need to work through. And so for me, Latin Heritage Month is a mix of all of that. So it's like, yes, it's a huge party, and like I'm very loud about it, although I'm very loud about it every day anyways, but more like emphasized during this month. But at the same time, also like trying to unlearn a lot of things that I was raised with in regards to anti-Blackness and the harm done to the indigenous people, and trying to unlearn and understand colonization. Like all of those things are things that I try to, like, for me, Latin Heritage Month is a mix of all of that, of like reclaiming our narrative, and telling our own stories the way we want to tell them, and celebrating who we are, celebrating our culture, celebrating our people, celebrating, you know, how far we've come, but then also at the same time still like doing the work that needs to be done.